Hello there, peoples. Today we are finally rounding out the summer 2019 points update for X-Wing by looking at all the generic upgrades that changed, as well as all the Republic and Separatist upgrades that changed. It's been interesting doing these first few videos for the channel, and hopefully we can continue to do things into the future, because I think we definitely can push forward, and we have something special on our hands. So thank you to everybody who's already been watching so far. Thank you to everybody who is starting to join in on this. But without further ado, let's round this out and start looking at all the generic upgrades that saw changes during this update. So starting off with those, we start with the R2 Astromech, which is going from a solid 4 points to a variable points cost. If you put it on a 0 or 1 agility ship, it'll cost 3 points. On a 2 agility ship like an X-Wing or a Sheathipede, it'll cost you 4 points still. And if you put it on an E-Wing or any other 3 agility ship, it'll now cost you 6 points overall in that total. So yeah, this change I like just because it lines up with what they did to R2 in the Rebel update. So definitely it should have a higher cost if you're trying to put it on a ship that's already innately harder to hit. So it's fair enough why they would do that, and that change is definitely going to be beneficial for the game. Then moving over to a couple of crew that saw changes, Seasoned Navigator is going from a solid 5 points to a variable points cost based on the ship's pilot skill. So this first one, it doesn't really matter because there's no pilot skill 0 ships that can actually take a crew slot, because the only pilot that is pilot skill 0 is null right now, and TIE-FOs can't take a crew slot. So anyways, if there's a pilot skill 0 ship that comes out, or a pilot skill 0 pilot that comes out, excuse me, it'll cost you 2 points to put a Seasoned Navigator on it. At pilot skill 1, you need 3 points. At 2, you need 4. 3, you need 5. 4 costs 6. 5 costs 7. And 6 costs 8. Now, this makes sense just because those higher higher pilot skill aces will generally already have that benefit of being able to react to their opponent's moves. And this is another layer that just allows them to react in all sorts of ridiculous ways. So this going up for those ships is definitely going to help prevent that from becoming too powerful of an effect. So definitely in favor of that change. And then Tactical Officer is going up from 2 to 6. Now basically, if you ever saw a ship with a red coordinate, you saw Tactical Officer on it all the time. And at 2 points, I will agree it was definitely too expensive, but I personally don't think they needed to jack it up to 6 points. That seems like a bit too hefty of an investment. Now, the reason behind the change, I completely understand. They wanted to make sure it wasn't as obvious of an include. But I think it would have been fine at 4 points or 5 points, because that's generally where most fringe play on and off crew are sitting right now, and it makes sense that this kind of universal effect, which a lot of others are also kind of universal in a way, at least the ones that are seeing fringe play, TAC Officer would fit right nicely into that. So I get why they're doing the change, and I like the fact that they're jacking it up a little bit, but I don't like the amount they did it by. If they dropped it by a point in the next update, I think it will be exactly where it is, or exactly where it needs to be, excuse me. So moving over to Force Powers now. 3 of them went down, 1 of them staying the same, and 1 of them moved to a variable points change. So starting off with the changes that involve going down, Instinctive Aim is going from 2 to 1. Fair enough, there aren't too many force-sensitive ships or pilots at the moment that can take ordnance. I think really the only ones are Luke and Vader. So this going down, I mean, it's nice to see, but let's face it, they're just going to keep using hate, and I'll explain why in a moment. Predictive Shot is going down from 4 to 1. So this one, if I remember the effect correctly, yeah, this effect I actually like on Luke or something, just because it would make more sense on Kylo, just because that's a much more maneuverable ship. It really does just provide a unique effect, and 4 points was definitely a little too high for it. 1 point, I think this will actually start to see some play now, just because being able to prevent rerolls up to a certain amount is absolutely amazing. And like I said, on Kylo, or heck, even on a Delta 7, because that's still a pretty maneuverable ship, this could definitely have a place there now. So, and then moving over to Sense, that is going down from 6 to 5. Now, I will admit, looking at dial effects definitely should have a price to it. But honestly, there isn't really too much use for it in the game right now. So considering a lot of the force users that are seeing play already have options to react to what their opponents do, especially the Delta 7, that is a highly maneuverable ship that can just play around whatever your opponent does. So I don't think the change here is really going to help. And then we come to the big force power change that happened. Hate is going from the solid 3 points to a variable points cost. So if you're putting it on a small ship, it costs 3 points, excuse me. If you put it on a medium ship, it costs 6, and you put it on a large ship, it costs 9. Now, this was probably because, like, a Sith Infiltrator with this was just ridiculous, especially Maul, because Maul 3 force charges on a large ship that can take a beating definitely should not have a 3-point upgrade that just allows it to constantly recover charges. So doing this, I absolutely understand, and plus, it doesn't really hinder the Vader hate combo just because, like, I mean, that's good, but Vader has 5 hit points or something like that, either 5 or 6, I don't remember at the moment. But definitely, it doesn't hinder things that are good without, or it doesn't hinder the good things that are sort of have a drawback to it, but it hurts the things that don't really have that drawback, and now they have the drawback of having a higher investment to make if you want to try to use this combo. So that change I really like. Moving over to the gunner slot, veteran turret gunners going up. Gee, big surprise there. It's going up from 6 to 8. I think this has been around for a while. Either that or people just recently discovered that if you put the turret in the front arc on stuff like a Skurg or a Y-Wing, and then primary attacked, and then veteran turret gunner to dorsal turret, it allowed you to essentially get a double tap on a turn. So that needed to go up just to try to make that card a bit more of an investment. And plus, even if you weren't using it for that, it was still a great card just to be able to attack 2 different ships and spread some damage around. So having a higher price point, definitely in favor of that. Moving over to the illicit slot. So contraband cybernetics is going down from 5 to 3. At 5 points, its effect for how many charges it had, which I believe was 1, and I am looking that up right now. Yep, it only had 1 charge, so 5 points for a 1-use upgrade with a somewhat powerful effect, but not even fully, wasn't really worth it. So dropping it to 3 definitely might open it to see play, but we'll see what happens there. And then inertial dampeners is going from a solid 1 point to a variable points cost based off the pilot skill, and I think it actually mirrors the Seasoned Navigator. So initiative 0, or excuse me, pilot skill 0. If you have it at that, it's a 2-point upgrade. At 1, it's 3. At 2, it's 4. 3, it's 5. 4 is 6. 5 is 7. And 6 is 8. Just because, again, like I mentioned with Seasoned Navigator, this opens up another option for, or this opened, excuse me, up another option for higher pilot skill aces to be able to have more options to react to their enemies. So this going up in points definitely makes that option a lot more significant and a lot more costly if you do manage to somehow misfly this and it gets blown up. Plus, this going up also actually, no, this going up doesn't stop Fat Han, because well, my God, I cannot speak today. The modified YT-1300 losing its illicit slot, this was the reason. There, I can speak. Sorry you had to endure that. Anyways, moving over to the missiles, the only thing seeing changes here is barrage rockets going up from 7 to 8. I briefly touched on this in my Imperial Point change video, but what we were seeing in this update is a lot of pilots going down in points, but then a commonly paired upgrade going up in points in order to try to get the pilots that were being flown in order to see other upgrades being used with it. So this change I like, and it also helps to make sure that on other pilots that might want to use it, it's a higher investment. So that change, I understand. I don't really like it, though, just because Barrage Rockets is already kind of a clunky card to use. But considering it's a 5-charge attack that doesn't require a target lock and just requires a focus, definitely should have a high price point to it. And I am looking at the rest of the upgrades, and I think that, nope, we have more to go. I had a 3rd page and I didn't even realize it. So we move over to the elite pilot talents, and a couple of these are seeing changes. So Debris Gambit is going up from 3 to 4. Definitely considering that a lot of dogfights, at least how I've played, and I've seen other people play, are taking place in those clusters of rocks. So and debris clouds and gas clouds, or whatever you want to call them. So this going up by a point definitely represents that change happening right now in the way people are playing the game. Juke is going up from 5 to 7. This needed to happen because Phantoms were just everywhere with this thing, and now you won't be able to fit 4 of them in Juke with all Juke into the same list. And honestly, the only other thing that would have mattered from this change is the Defender, but they decreased the points on that, so it really doesn't matter too much. Albeit now for like the N1 is going to be a higher investment if you want to do the essentially the Juke full throttle thing that everybody does with Defenders for the N1. So that change I like, and it's really only gonna impact Phantoms. Defenders and N1s probably aren't gonna be hurt by it. It looks like Trick Shot is going down from 2 to 4, just because being able to get that extra die, and again, people are fighting through inside the rocks these days, so that effect really is powerful nowadays, considering how people are playing the game, so that going up makes sense. Swarm Tactics, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is Swarm Tactics. Actually, let me double check. Okay, so there was an error on my sheet and I had to double check. So Swarm Tactics is going from a static 3 on everything to a variable points change. So if you're running it on a pilot skill 0 to 4, it'll still cost you 3 points. But if you're putting it on a pilot skill 5 or 6, it'll cost you 4 or 5 points respectively. Now this makes sense just because being able to dish out pilot skill 6 for a single phase is an extremely potent effect and could open up some pretty nasty kill box scenarios. So this going up in order to try to combat that definitely makes sense from a balance standpoint. So, and then after that, the only 2 other upgrades that saw changes from the generic side of things is the dorsal turret and the ion cannon turret, both going up by a point. My guess is this was to help break up the veteran turret gunner combo a little bit. But I honestly don't think this is going to prevent like turrets from seeing play, just because they're still pretty decent. It's just now the turret plus veteran turret gunner combo is going to be a little harder to fit into your list. So those changes make sense why they're doing it. And I think that is actually everything now for the generic upgrades. So let's move over to the Republic and Separatist upgrades that saw changes. Okay, so on the Republic side of things, the Delta 7B, Battle Meditation, and Calibrated Laser Targeting were the only things that saw changes, so we'll go over those one at a time, starting with Battle Meditation. It is going from, I am double checking here, it already had a variable points cost, but every points cost is going down, so it's still based on its pilot's pilot skills, so pilot skill 0, it's dropping from 3 to 0, but that doesn't matter since there are no Republic pilot skill 0s at the moment. Pilot skill 1 is dropping from 5 to 2. Pilot skill 2 is dropping from 7 to 4. Pilot skill 3 is dropping from 9 to 6. 4 from 11 to 8. 5 from 13 to 10. And 6 from 15 to 12. So this upgrade is, I mean, it's okay as a way to coordinate a V19 swarm. But the problem is you aren't seeing too many of those in the game right now, and Republic really doesn't have a true-to-nature swarm ship. Now, that doesn't mean in the future they won't, because they use the Z95, and the V-Wing could also count as a swarm ship if they essentially make it the Republic version of an M3A. But we have yet to see that, and again, the V19 is currently the best platform we have with that, and it's a very limited ship that, at least in terms of how many people own a ton of them at the moment, because remember, they haven't released a V19 expansion yet. They're only available in Guardians of the Republic. So this going down as a future-proof thing, I like it, but I'm not going to say anything on this until we see true-to-nature swarm ships like the V-Wing and the Z95 come into the faction. So moving from that, calibrated laser targeting is going down in points, so it was already 0 points if you put it on a pilot skill 0 or 1 ship. I believe it's actually based on pilot skill. Yes, it is still. I just had to double check that. So it was already 0 points on a 0 or 1 pilot skill ship, and it's staying that way. But now it is 1 point instead of 2 for pilot skill 2. It's 2 points instead of 4 for a pilot skill 3. 3 points instead of 6 for a pilot skill 4. 4 points instead of 8 for a pilot skill 5. And 5 points instead of 10 for a pilot skill 6. Now, this was way too expensive for what it offered, and when you compared it at the old price point to Delta 7B, it definitely was an inferior upgrade. Delta 7B was superior in every way, but calibrated laser targeting going down in combination with Delta 7B going up, which we'll discuss in a moment, definitely might open up some room for it to see play, especially considering this is for the Delta 7, a ship with inherent force abilities because all their pilots are force sensitive. So the focus adding thing here actually is not too bad. So that change I definitely like, and plus it's a cool upgrade. And now really the question is it worth taking up your mod slot as well as your config slot? So we'll see how that goes, but I like the change. As for Delta 7B, every value is going up by 2 points, so pilot skill 0, that doesn't matter, but it's going up from 12 to 14. Pilot skill 1 from 13 to 15. 2 from 14 to 16. 3 from 15 to 17. 4 from 16 to 18. 5 from 17 to 19. And 6 from 18 to 20. Now, again, Delta 7B was everywhere. Literally every time I saw a Delta 7 run, either on YouTube or in real life, I saw a Delta 7B, and I'm pretty sure most of you have seen the same thing. So this thing was definitely way overblown or way overplayed, even though it did have a ridiculously high point cost. In fact, I think it's like the second most expensive upgrade in terms of point cost, or a single points cost. Or that made no sense. Just forget everything I said there. It's one of the more expensive upgrades, let's just say that. So definitely it going up in combination with calibrated laser targeting going down definitely will make an interesting decision as to which one to go with, but I'm honestly not too sure if this will hinder Delta 7's popularity, because it still is a powerful upgrade. Being able to add 2 shields and an extra attack die at the cost of losing an agility die either way is still a pretty potent effect. So we'll have to see where this goes, because honestly I think that Delta 7B will still see some play, but there are going to be some lists now that are playing more maneuverable options in order to try to kick off calibrated laser targeting. So Delta 7B going up to help calibrated laser targeting, that change I like. So let's move over now to the Separatist upgrades that saw changes. So starting off on that end, we have Dooku, who is going up from 9 to 10. Now, I understand this, but only if a specific situation happens in the future, and we'll get to that in a moment. So Dooku's effect, if you've read it, you know it requires all your force charges to be active, both from the pilot and from Dooku himself. Now, here's the problem I have with this going up, because it really didn't need to, because the only infiltrator pilot that was seeing regular play was Maul, who has his own force charges. And because he has that, you're going to be spending them on his ability and focus results and all sorts of other stuff. And even with hate going up on Maul from 3 to 9, it still is extremely costly to put Dooku on him. So that's an 18-point thing, or an 18-point value if you are throwing Dooku on at the old points cost. Now it's 19 points actually. So I really didn't understand the necessity for the change here. Now, if 066 and the Dark Courier were seeing play, that would be a different story. Just because those don't have force charges, you could use Dooku's ability every turn. But with Maul being the only one seeing play, this makes no sense. Now, I mentioned that I understand this if a future event happens, and that is if the Sheathapede shuttle gets announced in the next couple of waves. If it does, then that will make sense, because Dooku on a Sheathapede would be extremely powerful, since I don't think any of those pilots would be force sensitive. But if that doesn't happen, this change makes absolutely no sense. So that's my take on that. Moving over to grappling struts, this is going down from 3 to 1. And this was a definitely needed change, because a lot of swarms involving Vulture droids were not seeing grappling struts being used. And it is a great utility piece just to prevent yourself from flying over rocks. But it at 3 points was not really something that you could squeeze into a lot of Vulture swarms. And it being brought down to 1 point doesn't make it too much of a hit on your overall points total, and definitely makes it something that you're going to be able to fit in from now on. And FFG learned the mistake of putting this kind of stuff at 3 points, because they made landing struts for the Hyena only 1 point. So that change was definitely necessary. Then moving over to the Discord missiles, those were going down from 6 to 4. Honestly, like, that effect for only being able to use once, and it definitely was not worth 6 points. So this going down, definitely I like it. Energy shell charges going up from 4 to 5. I talked about this with the Scimitar Squadron pilot and barrage rockets. FFG's trying to lower the price of the pilots and raise the price of the commonly paired upgrades. And this is another example of that, because you basically saw energy shell charges on every Vulture droid ever. And plus now with the Hyena coming out, it's going to be a bit more of a price in order to be able to use that, just because, I mean, Hyenas can take it. They are a Separatist ship with calculates, so fair enough as to why they would raise that. Moving over to the mod in the faction, Impervium Plating, going down from 6 to 4. This is really just in an attempt to try to get the Belbalab to see a bit more play, because really the only time you've ever seen it is with Wat Tambor and a Vulture Swarm. So this going down definitely opens up maybe some more room for Grievous, or probably the others. Definitely Grievous more than the others, just because Grievous is actually a fun ship. It's fun without maneuver, so we'll see how that goes. Treacherous going down from 3 to 2. Any effect that encourages your own ships to blow up definitely should have a lower price point, just because, again, the whole point of the game is not to get blown up. So that change definitely makes a whole lot of sense. And then Soulless 1 going down from 10 to 6. Again, it definitely needed to go down for the Belbalab's sake, because it's a decent title. It's just, it was too expensive for what it offered. Only one reroll for 10 points. Just no, like, that's way too much. At 6 points, you can make an argument for it. And then finally, the DRK-1 probe droids going down from 6 to 5. So, I mean, their effect is okay, assuming I am remembering their effect correctly, and I am looking that up quickly. While a friendly object locks an object, or a friendly ship locks an object or jams an enemy ship, it may measure range from you. I mean, it's okay, but there aren't too many, at least this is what would have said before the Hyena came out. There aren't too many jamming or locking effects really needed, so I don't understand the point of that. But, and this is a big but, now that we have the Bactoid prototype pilot for the Hyena, I actually think this might see some play, just because it allows you to do a bit more target lock shenanigans with your Vulture droids, and be able to kick off the Bactoid prototype's ability more effectively, and be able to have that action economy rolling for it. So taking that into consideration, I like the point drop, just because, again, it opens up that room to be able to use the Bactoid prototype's ability. And with that, we have covered all the upgrades that have seen changes, so now let's cover all the Republican Separatist pilots, starting with the Republic side of things. So starting off with the ARC 170 on the Republic side of things, Oddball is going down from 55 to 52. This change, 3 points going down, could open up some room for expert handling on this thing, just to help to try to trigger his abilities more frequently, because the ARC 170 is a very limited ship in terms of maneuverability. So having the option now to put expert handling on him helps trigger his ability, since, again, it relies on the Bullseye arc. So that change I like. Wolf going down by 1 point from 51 to 50. He was seeing quite a bit of play, but him going down a point just to help maybe work with his effect a little more. In fact, I believe I remember it, but I am looking it up as we speak right now. But again, small points increases like this could always make a difference. And, I mean, with his ability, he really didn't need to see too much change, but him going down a point could help in the future. So that's all I have to say about that. Sinker is staying where he is. Honestly, he was, in my opinion, the best of the pilots, just because his support ability is ridiculous. You have a pretty good weapons platform, or an offensive platform in general, for the Sinker, or in terms of the ARC 170, and then the pilot ability, just to be able to provide support, is great, even though Republic doesn't have too good of a swarm capability right now. Again, if we see the Z95 or the V-Wing in the future, maybe that'll change. But for now, Sinker is good where he needs to be. Jag, then, is going down from 49 to 48, and it's a similar ability to Sinker, but it really isn't as good, just because it requires you to be in range of the enemy, or, well, Sinker's does too, but that's a more universal thing that will happen every turn. With Jag, you sometimes don't want to acquire the lock, but just being able to have that action economy could help, so him going down a point it's not too bad, but we'll see what happens. Squad 7 veteran going down from 47 to 46. Between the two generics, you generally saw the 104th Battalion pilot more often, and that is staying at its 42 points. So the Squad 7 veteran going down a point is nice, but maybe if they dropped it down like another point or two, then it might start seeing some more play. But at the moment, we'll see what happens with that. So that is the ARC 170. Moving over to the V19 now, oddball on that ship is going down from 38 to 35. Now, this opens up just more room for other things because the V19 doesn't need expert handling since it already has a white barrel roll. So this going down is just to open up other options on the ship is nice. Kickback is going down from 36 to, or 33 to 36, excuse me. I cannot speak. And after you perform a barrel roll action, you may perform a red target lock action. I mean, it's a nice ability, but it does stress you out afterwards. But it gives you some nice options in terms of being able to perform multiple actions and keep things in arc. So it going down is not too bad. Axe going down from 33 to 32. And pulling up his ability here, it's another side arc effect similar to Sinker and Jag. So being able to transfer green tokens, it's okay. Like if you had Obi-Wan in your list or something, but assuming that's what Obi-Wan's effect is, let me look that up. Okay, so it's after you spend a focus token. So Axe, I mean, it's okay if you find a way to get token stack for Republic, you can make it work. But other than that, it going down 1 point really isn't going to help too much. Then we move over to Swoop, going down from 32 to 31. In case I didn't mention, Axe is going down from 33 to 32. Swoop, I mean, it's a nice effect, but it's probably not going to see too much use, just because like the V19 it could help with, but the V19 does have a limited blue maneuver selection, and as such, stressing it is not necessarily the best idea sometimes. And the Delta 7 is already going to be speeding away by the time that you want to use this, so it going down really, honestly, isn't too much of a help. I mean, it's nice again, but not really going to help too much. The Blue Squadron Protector going down from 29 to 28. Now, I didn't mention this with the Squad 7 veteran, but this is kind of the same logic here. These are going down to try to make dedicated possibly a more viable option, but we'll see how that pans out. But this going down a point definitely helps more than Squad 7 veteran going down a point. Just because 3 points more for a Pilot Skill 3 honestly isn't that bad in my opinion. So moving from that, Tucker is going down from 31, to 29, and this allows you just to get more action economy, and action economy is extremely important if you've ever played 2nd edition, so this change I absolutely like. And then the generic Gold Squadron Trooper is just staying at 25. So then moving over to the Delta 7, some of these are going up, some of these are going down. It's just, actually most of these are going down. So I'm going to stop here for a moment because I need to take a breath, and I'll be right back. So starting off with Anakin going up from 60 to 62. It's Anakin. He's seeing a lot of play. He has a good effect. Not much else to say. And him going up definitely brings him up closer to Vader and Fenn. So this change I like just to keep all the Pilot Skill 6s closer to each other. Obi-Wan going down from 53 to 47. I mean, his effect is nice, but it really isn't seeing too much play since there isn't too much token spam happening in Republic right now. So the change might help with open up some more room for those options on other ships, but we'll see how that pans out. Plo Koon, who I don't even remember his effect, I'm looking it up, is going down from 51 to 44. At the start of the engagement phase, you may spend a force charge and choose another friendly ship. You may transfer a green token to it or an orange token to yourself. I mean, it's okay, but you honestly aren't seeing too many orange token effects right now in terms of the general game, because Republic doesn't have a lot of weapons disabled tokens floating around, or any. I think the BTL B-Y-Wing will be the first example of Republic having those types of effects. No, wait, some ships could take a disarm, or R2 astromech and disarm themselves, so, or maybe another astromech, so forget everything I just said there. So I mean, the effect is nice, but taking away an offensive option like that in terms of weapons disabled or disarm or whatever you want to call those tokens, it could hurt quite a bit. And again, and Delta 7s really don't have enough slots in order to do proper token spam, at least in 2nd edition. So, I mean, the change is nice, but it's probably not going to help too much. Mace going down from 1 point from 46 to 45. He's also a fun pilot to mess around with. I wish he actually would have gone down more, just so that way R4 P17 could have fit a bit easier on there. But him going down, we'll see how that pans out. Luminara going down from 44 to 43, being able to reduce the die result that your opponent throws at you is a very potent effect and should still have a high price point, but it going down a point definitely helps. Sacy 10 going down from 44 to 43. His effect is at situational at best, so I honestly don't think the point change is going to help too much. Barris is going down from 43 to 39. Can't read for whatever reason. So I'm reading her effect for the first time right now. I mean, it's okay, but the fact she only has 1 force charge definitely hurts it. So that probably is why they dropped it down in points, but I honestly don't think that it's going to help too much there either. Ahsoka staying at 47, and I don't remember her effect. Okay, her effect is actually not too bad, so definitely makes sense they would keep her at a higher price point. And then the generic Jedi Knight going down from 39 to 38, not really going to help at all, just because who wants to fly a generic pilot skill 3 Force user for 38 points when there are infinitely better ones for a few more points in terms of like even some of the lower end uniques. So that is all the Republic pilots that saw changes, and I think everything saw changes except for like one pilot on each ship. So moving over to the Separatists here now. We start that off by looking at the Belbullab 22, and Grievous is going down from 47 to 44. Like I mentioned earlier, they're trying to get the other Belbullab pilots to see more play. So this going down Grievous going down in combination with Soulless One and Impervium Plating going down could be a fun option now if you want a somewhat reliable arc dodger, because the Belbullab actually is pretty decent at it. Wat Tambor going down from 43, to 42. He was easily the best of the pilots, so I'm not too sure why he went down, so don't really like that going down. The Skakoan Ace and Captain Zero staying where they are. Not too much to say about them. They weren't really seeing any play, so we'll have to see how that pans out. And then the Thethan Outraw Autopilot going down from 37 to 36. I mean, it's a nice, cheap arc dodger if you want it. But, again, similar to the V19, it's currently exclusive to the Servants of Strife pack, so you can't really put too many of them on the field unless you have friends that own one as well, and even then they might be using it for Wat Tambor in a swarm, or a Vulture Droid swarm, so if they release more Belbullab expansion, I wouldn't mind it too much, but for now, it's not that good. It's not going to help too much, so moving over to the Infiltrator, Maul is going up from 65 to 67. Again, the Maul plus hate combo definitely was potent, and this going up hopefully will break it up and definitely open up some more options in terms of the other Infiltrator pilots. Speaking of which, Dooku is going up from 61 to 63. His option to just spend a force charge to remove a red or blue token, assuming that's what his effect does. Yes, it is. So that is a very potent effect, and considering he has 3 force charges, definitely needed to be at a higher price point. So then, in terms of the the other 2 pilots, 066 went down from 55 to 52. I mean, it's okay, but he doesn't have the ability of IG-88 to get multiple calculate tokens. He doesn't have the calculate abilities of Vulture Droids and Hyenas in terms of network calculations. So this going down, I honestly not a big fan of it just because it's not going to help too much. But the Dark Courier going down from 53 to 51, I mean, it's okay, but it's still a little overcosted for a generic, so not really that big on that either. The unique for Dooku and Maul going up, I like. The generics going down, I don't like just because I don't think it'll help too much. And then rounding this out, we're finally almost done, and I know I'm going to be breathing a sigh of relief while editing this because we're currently almost at the 35-minute mark. Oh, God, I didn't even realize I was talking that long. So, Vulture droids. Let's speed round this, and I'm going to stop so I can actually pull out my cards so I can actually read things properly. Okay, so I've got my cards. Let's do this. So, DSF 081 going down from 27 to 26. It's okay, but Vulture droids are already going to die very easily, so there's really no point in using his effect. That's good. Precise Hunter going down from 26 to 23. In my opinion, best of the Vulture pilots that are unique. Definitely him going down is going to help. But again, energy shell charges went up, so if you're trying to pair that, it really doesn't help too much. But it's definitely nice to see this go down just to open up other options. Good. That's another Precise Hunter. Separatist drone going down from 22 to 21. Again, fits with the thing of the pilot going down, but the paired upgrade going up. So it going down opens up possibly some room for other upgrades, but we'll see how that pans out. Horch or Orchow prototype, however you pronounce that. After an enemy ship in your bullseye arc at range 0 to 2 declares another friendly ship, you may perform a calculator or target lock action. It's a nice effect just because network calculations is a thing, and it also helps if you're trying to use that, what is it, the Hyena, the Bactoid prototype, that's what it's called. And if you're trying to use that effect, this definitely opens up some room for that, so that change I like. And then finally, Trade Federation drone going down from 20 to 19. Again, fits in with the logic earlier. Lower the pilot's point cost, raise the upgrade's point cost. So that change I like just because it'll open up a bit more room for other things and could open up more room for a kind of core ship to have more upgrades. So, and that is all the Separatist changes. And with that, we have concluded our look at this points update. Hopefully there was some stuff you agreed with me on throughout this. Hopefully there was some stuff you disagreed with me on throughout this. But as long as you enjoyed what you saw here, that is all that matters. So I promise there's going to be other stuff coming to the channel, other games, other types of content coming. Maybe not for a few days as I try to figure out what I'm going to do. But there will be some stuff in the near future that's going to be new for the channel. So hopefully you can look forward to that. If you somehow stumbled across this in the Browse tab, please consider clicking subscribe. I know you're tired of hearing that from every other YouTuber, but we're trying to get this thing to get off the ground, and it would really help a lot just so that way more people can see this. And it also shows YouTube that more people may want to see this, and it'll help us all overall. So thank you if you do that. If you don't, it's your call. I'm not going to judge you for it. And that will really do it for this video. So thank you for joining us for the start of the channel, and hopefully you can look forward to what else we have coming down the pipeline eventually. Peace out.